Hello, what's up, guys? This is J Money here, bringing you a brand new video today, and as I promised, I am bringing you the discussion of the deck that I've been talking about. I actually took it to a local, and it was a pretty big one this time because it was a playset of Ash Blossoms kind of tournament, to where the winner got a set of those, and second, third, and fourth place would split a set of drone lockbirds. I managed to get second place, which was pretty awesome with this deck that I'm talking about. And the deck I want to talk to you guys about is, in fact, ABC's Dragon Buster is an incredibly strong card. Of course, still, the fact that people no longer think Decode Talker plus ABC Dragon Buster is a thing is, been my biggest and greatest weapon. Going into this tournament, I played we had 5 rounds of Swiss and top 8. I played against 3 Spirals, a 60 card Infernoid, and a Magic Bullet or Magical Musketeers deck, whatever. This is the deck straight out the box. This is the deck straight out the gate, side deck, extra deck and all. I noticed that I only had 14 extra decks, so that's why you only see 14. I only use 4 links. I only ran into Decode Talker really only one time the entire tournament, because nobody's really made me go first. And half the times that if I would choose to go first game 3, it never really came up. I never really needed to. A lot of times I would just sit, the combo with having a Hangar and a Gadget really did not come up as often as I would have liked it to. But this is a going second ABC's build. As you can clearly see, you got the 4 Kaijus in the main, the Dark Hole, the Raigeki, the Slumber, the 3 evenly matched mind controls, and enemy controller is like one of the biggest MVPs of the entire night. Simply because you just sack the pieces, steal the monsters, float with the monsters, and link with the monsters you stole, and still make your Dragon Buster, which is just fantastic. It is great going second card because you just play it straight from the hand, upon them activating Sleeper or something like that, and they just don't see it coming. So I want to go over some things. This deck is, I think this is just a testimony to that you can do well with any deck if you build it the right way. Most decks I've been building recently have been built to go second, and that is where my success has been shown, is just letting my opponent win the die roll, letting them go first, and breaking their boards. The thing is, people talk about these Spirals and their boards being so unbeatable and unbreakable, but yet I've played against 3 in Swiss and beat all of them going second, because these boards are not unbreakable, and as you can clearly see, there is not a single hand trap in the main deck at all. In fact, I sided the Ash Blossoms a lot for games 3, because I would win game 1, then win game 2, and every time Ash Blossom it will never be my opening hand, but it will be somewhere within the next 3 cards, to where they would stack it to the top of the deck with Drone after they've already went off, which again just enforces my dislikes for running hand traps over Kaijus and evenly matched, because I would end up drawing that same Ash Blossom after they've already went off. But it's just like, even if they didn't stack it, that's just the main inherent problem with hand traps in general, is that if you draw them after your opponent already went off, they're dead cards. Meanwhile, I can draw this Kaiju that's evenly matched, and I can Kaiju over their shit immediately, or go straight into battle phase and resolve the card. That's what I liked about board breakers versus hand traps. My opinion, I don't even like hand traps to begin with, because I don't believe any deck should be denied the ability to make a board. We need more board breakers, to balance out going first and going second. That is the real answer. You know, having a bunch of hand traps is a quote-unquote necessary evil, is just a dumb excuse to make broken ass cards to disrupt opponents' turn ones. I believe turn ones should be played. It should be played out in full, and you know, just do what I do and just kaiju and evenly match and do all that other good stuff, because none of these boards are not unbreakable, because last I checked only one deck is playing Archlord Christia in the main deck. So that has always been my deal about these quote-unquote unbreakable boards. As long as I can special summon, I can break the board. Bottom line. So without let's get started. Round one I went against Spirals, of course. He won the die roll, he went first. And I was like, yeah, I know, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what you're supposed to do, go first to bust, right? And he said, that's right. You know, and he's just, as he's doing his plays, he's just constantly asking if it's okay. And I just decided to say, you know what? It's all good. Just make the biggest board you can make. Make the absolute best board possible you can make. And, you know, and so he does. You know, he doesn't get his Tri-Gate, but he has a sleeper, and he has Decode, and he has all that good stuff. And I opened double chicken, which seems pretty bad. I opened double chicken, a gold and a silver gadget, which is, you know, pretty it's not the best. I opened one piece, I believe it was A. Yeah, I believe it was A. And then I opened a terraforming, which was pretty cool. And so I immediately specialed the chicken. It's a level 4 if your opponent controls a monster, so there's a reason why I play this still over Destrudo, because I'm not restricted to just level 7s. I can also play Cypher and Lord Omega. And I played Union Hangar, and he lets the Hangar go, weirdly enough. And so I searched B first, just in case if the sleeper does decide to disrupt the Hangar. Equip for the C, I can still get the search versus searching C, which is what we normally would do. And if they disrupt the Hangar, then I have C and A, but I have no way to get to the third piece, so I search B. And so what I ended up doing is, the hell did I? Yeah, I special chicken and I played Hangar, and yeah, he denied me the search. He denied me the search, and so what I ended up doing, I was like, alrighty, so sleeper's out the way, so let's go and special this second chicken. And I played a gadget, and I played a gadget, and then I played A, and just made Borload. And I took a sleeper, and I attacked over the Decode, and on this next turn, I just broke his board apart. He couldn't, like, the sleeper was still protected by Last Resort. I had a double Dryden effect, and I had Borload that he just could not get over. And he lost the game from there, you know. Luckily, I didn't draw any of my going second cards. I didn't draw any of my Kaijus, any of my evenly matched, or Dark Holes, or Raigekis, or my control enemy controllers. So, you know, of course, you would think it's a coincidence. First off, a lot of players do not expect Buster decks to have Borload in their extra deck, because it's usually filled with a bunch of Decodes and Proxy Dragons, maybe Akashik, maybe. Depends on the build. Since I'm playing Kaijus, Akashik's one of the better ones, because Gadget plus Peace, I Kaiju over Sleeper and place it in his zone 2 or 4, and I just Akashik bounce the Kaiju and re-Kaiju over something else. That's just how awesome Akashik is. But I ended up siding more going second cards, because I knew he was going first. I sided the 3 Ash Blossoms, of course. He gets his drone and he stacks it on the top of the deck, but, you know, it didn't matter because I had a Kaiju in hand already, and I had a Mind Control. He made his board. He still doesn't make Tri-Gate, but he still gets a sleeper and all that good stuff. And you would think Mind Control would be kind of dead against a deck like Spiral, simply because Resort prohibits targeting, but really, truthfully, it's actually put in a lot of work for me actually being able to take things like their Decode and their Proxy Dragon, because it just makes me my Borlo Dragon much easier to go into, It's so much easier to go into boar load if you take a monster who has multiple material value. And so I might control this decode, but granted, of course, boar load takes 3 plus effect monsters and not just 2. So it didn't really do me that much good. I mean, I managed to make proxy after I kaiju'd over his sleeper, and then I used the decode and the proxy to make Akashik to bounce. And, you know, I just broke his board, you know, again. And he ended up recovering just a little bit, and then I top deck Raigeki and made Buster and killed him. And so that was that. And then match 2, I went against Magical Musketeers, by far the easiest matchup I had all day. I'm starting to think ABC is actually the worst matchup for Magical Musketeers, simply because, for one, if they go first and they make Decode plus Buster, it's like they pretty much lose, simply because Buster can easily just start banishing things on summon. So they continue to get denied monsters. They can never keep a monster solid on the board. And, you know, you have things like, they do have things like Desperado and Cross Dominator, but the fact remains is Buster can just tag out on their turn and the monster still gets banished, and they get no advantage from the Cross Domination or the Desperado, like, let's say if they had a Caspar, because Caspar is banished, it no longer belongs in a zone, and they get no search, they lose 2 cards, and I tagged out, and then you just literally make boar load the next turn with the decode already on the board, and you win the game. After you made boar load and 2 busters with decode, and you just, yeah, it's just win. Just too much win more. And that is the beauty of actually playing a boar load in this deck, because they do not get rid of the decode, or let's say they do, but the pieces are all still there, and you equipped another piece off the Hangar, you can literally draw an unequip special and equip another one, make boar load, and yeah, and you're in such a stupid advantageous position, like just for summoning the boar load by itself, and then you have 2 more busters coming. 2 more busters are just coming at you, getting rid of any other form of resistance on the board, going for game. So, but the Magibullet guy, he won the die roll, and he opts to go first. I'm like, yeah, no, it's you go. So he summons his Caspar, and he plays Tice, and he summons his Doc and his Kid Brave, you know, typical thing, and he uses Caspar, and he searches Dead Man's Burst, or Last Stand. And I'm like, okay, well, that means he must already have his Cross Dominator or his Desperado in hand already, so I have to be careful. And I opened, what did I open? I opened a Union Hangar, right? Raigeki, an enemy controller. I did not want enemy controller or Union Hangar getting negated, so this was instant bait for that Dead Man's Burst. And I had 1 gadget, and I had a what did I have? I had a C, yes, that's what it was. And then I went and I played Hangar, and first off I played Raigeki so I can get the Dead Man's Burst out the way, you know. And so he goes Caspar effect after he negated, and he searches Cross Dominator. I'm like, alrighty then. But I had the enemy controller in hand, so it was fine, you know. So if he tries to Cross Dominator the gadget, then I could just chain enemy controller, the effect's not negated, I still steal a monster, and I still special, and it will be all good. So I play the Hangar and I search A. I'm like, okay, all the pieces are coming together. And I summon my gadget and activate the effect, but he doesn't use Cross Dominator. I'm like, oh, alright. And so what I do is I special the C, right? And I go effect, I equip B. And I'm like, alrighty, battle phase. And I go C to try and crash into Caspar so I can just get the material off and rid himself of a monster at the same time. And so he tries to use Cross Dominator on my C, and I'm like, it's unaffected by spells because it's equipped with B, but a lot of people keep overlooking this because, like, Buster and any other pieces are never really equipped, like, because they generally get used as links or Buster's just on the board. But, you know, so that was his misplay. And he uses Kid Brave, you know, he draws 2. And I'm like, okay. His Caspar still died, and the B left, and I searched another A. And so I go, Gadget, let's go ahead and swing at Mr. Doc over here. And he activates Honest from his hand. And I'm like, okay then. We're doing something. And so the Gadget dies. And I'm like, alright, now let's go and activate this enemy controller from hand. I sack off the C, and I go and take his Doc. And I swing that Doc into Kid Brave. Kid Brave dies. Specialed A off the C. Swung with A. You know, it was basically GG from there. I ended up going into Dragon Buster, banishing his Doc, and he had like 2 cards in his hand. So there really wasn't anything he could do. He just scooped it up, and I thought he was still going to go first because it's Magical Musketeers. They want to go first. And he, so I sided, more going second cards, I sided Ashes and all that. And surprisingly enough, he makes me go first. And I'm like, well, shit. Well then, I was like, I didn't side my pots in because I thought I was going second. So I tread this carefully, and I go, I open quite a bit. I open Hangar, I open enemy controller, I open a gadget, a piece, and I think I drew into pseudospace later. I had multiple things. I had 2 pieces, I believe. Yeah. And so I ended up going, and I resolved Hangar again. I searched the second piece. I play gadget, and I play C again to equip B. And he says, since you control no monsters, he cherries my busters. And I'm like, well, shit. Well, what he ends up doing is he drew, and he summoned Caspar. And he doesn't do anything else because Caspar can't run anything over it. And so he passes. So I'm like, oh, okay then. So now I know he doesn't have a Desperado, otherwise he would have played it. But it wouldn't really have done him too much good, actually, if he did. So what I ended up doing was I drew into a pseudospace. So I went ahead and unequipped the B, and I went Hangar equip. And then I played pseudospace and banished the same Union Hangar. And I went ahead and summoned the other piece out of my hand, and I equipped. And I activated enemy controller and tributed off the B that I specialed, and I took his monster. And then I immediately linked his monster with the C after I used A to grab B back, made proxy so C could trigger, and I specialed. And let's see. No, that's not how it went down. Because I know I OTK'd the shit out of him. I took his I took his monster, and I had 2 A's on board because that was 38, and a silver gadget, a B, and a Caspar, and I gamed him. I ended up just OTKing him right there, right off the bat, and I'm like, Buster's got banished, and I still managed to OTK him because Magical Musketeers aren't too good if you can't keep a monster solidified. But that was that. Match 3, Spiral again. He made his board, and as he was going, and I same thing, checking to see if it was good, and I told him to make the biggest board he could make. And this time he undermakes it because of what I said. Generally, I like to say keep going till I stop you, or just make the biggest board you can make. When you say that, then they start to worry that, hey, this guy, he's got something for me if I make a big-ass board, so I'm going to undermake it, and it makes it even easier for me to break the board, because all I need is one kaiju, and make Buster, and I just kill my opponent. And so it's just like, when you say stuff like that, just make the biggest word you can make. It's literally like a mind game kind of thing. It's not even so much as playing mind games with my opponent, because I actually have the answers in my hand, and so I'm like, you know, I don't even care. I don't care that he has Tri-Gate and Sleeper and all that stuff. Like, when literally half of the deck is just going second cards, you don't care. And so I beat him in game 2. He goes first again, and he actually makes Tri-Gate and Sleeper and all that good stuff, but I open double evenly matched. I'm like, awesome. And so I go draw a phase, standby phase, main phase 1. I was like, battle phase. I was like, in battle phase, evenly matched. He goes Tri-Gate and Negate. And I was like, all right, activate another one. He's like, you can't do that. I was like, yeah, I can. We haven't moved into main phase 2 yet. And he gets pissed. He banishes everything. Of course, he keeps Sleeper on board. And then I just mind control the Sleeper. Played Hangar, played C, equipped, and just linked with the Sleeper. I just went proxy, went decode, and made Buster and killed him. And so, yeah, just another 2-0 because ABCs and going second and kaijuing over everything and evenly matched and mind control and enemy controller and yeah, all that good stuff. I probably should have threw Spell Shattering Arrow on the side deck, really, if I'm being honest, because Resort has really been a bother. Me not being able to take their double helixes to turn off Utility Wire, because one of them was actually playing it, but I actually needed the Link 2 because any Link 3 and making board load is still equally as difficult. So I totally forgot to throw it in the side deck, but it didn't matter. The Inferno player, was weird. Let's see, Dweller didn't do as much as I thought it would against them. Like, the fact that I saw Dweller in my extra deck is saying a lot. I actually managed to keep a Spiral player locked down, ending their turn practically, simply because I had Dweller on the board just sitting there. He couldn't use his. He ended up playing Foolish Burial Goods, and I immediately Dweller and all that stuff. He had his quick fix on the board and all that good stuff, but he didn't want to do any of that stuff because Dweller just says no. So Dweller's actually surprisingly wasn't the worst against Spiral, considering it was one of the only things I could make. But just going into the top, I lost out of the last round because this guy actually, I don't know if he sided a second Sleeper or actually mained it, but after I broke his first board, I was just thinking, okay, it's only a matter of time, because ABCs are actually really good at grinding because their pieces, they keep working in tandem, getting themselves back from the grave to hand, adding more things from deck to hand, and specialing from hand to field, and just, going into more ranks and going into links and just recurring themselves. I thought, hey, I got this. I have a little bit more breathing room, even though Super Agents and Toughs are 1900. But the fact is, this dude managed to get a second Sleeper, and that's what won him the game, because, his disruptiveness was just outpacing the recursion, and that was really the only reason I got him. I didn't plan for a second one. I guess he was pretty smart. He figured that, hey, somebody's gonna answer this stuff, and I better be prepared with the second one, and he was, and he got me. I beat him game 1 though, but game 2 and game 3 was also kind of bad because I opened nothing but spells on my second game, and then nothing but spell and traps on my third one. On my third game, I decided for going first, and I saw 2 Sanctums. I saw a Strike, I saw a Pot with no Peace and no Union Hanger, no Terraforming. And I saw a, what did I see? I think I saw a Chicken. No, there was no monsters, that's why. Yeah, there was no monsters. Oh yeah, it was an enemy controller. And so there wasn't really anything I could do. I didn't draw any of my board breakers or anything. And I'm surprised I got as far as I did because I have a 45 card deck, but you know, my theory behind that 45 card deck is every last one of these you kind of need, but it's just like 45 sounds like a big deal, but the moment you resolve one desires, it doesn't even matter. Like, for not only that, but you know, you go through so many cards in the deck to begin with. You have your Union Hangars digging you 2 pieces out with each round. Not only that, but you got B searching you more cards, Gadget summoning more cards out of deck, and it's just all around just nothing but a big search party that the deck is. So 45 really wasn't bad at all, you know, I should say. So anyway, Decode Talker plus ABC Dragon Buster is still very much a thing. What did we learn from this? We learned that any deck can go second as long as you build it the right way to go second. Everybody prefers to play hand traps. I just prefer to just make sure all the known threats are on the field and all that good stuff. Me personally, again, I don't like hand traps. I know people think they're necessary, but they really do more harm for the game than good. They, you know, people are very biased when it comes to these things, and they only look at what it does for them, but they completely neglect what it also does for their opponent as well. Because it's not like they're the only ones playing hand traps, you know, their opponents are playing them as well. And the thing about hand traps is it takes every bad situation and it makes it worse. It's one of those weird evils. It's not even necessary. It's just one of the ones to where if you really look at it and you ask, is this what it's called? Is this called for really? You know, not only do you have to worry about, I go first, I play into their hand traps, and then they go and then they play into my hand traps and all that good stuff, but here's the breaking point of why I don't agree with hand traps and what they stand for. It makes it hard to establish a board turn one. Like I said, I believe every person should be able to establish a board. It makes it hard to establish a board, and it makes it even harder to break a board because your opponent are playing the exact same hand traps. So, you know, people defend hand traps as this necessary evil, but at the same time, they are the same people that will struggle really difficult against established boards. Let's say your opponent has an established board and he has 2 hand traps in his hand of his own. Like, how are you breaking the board? The answer is you're not going to break it, because hand traps help out your opponent a hell of a lot more if they've already established their board. And you know, in your case, if you have unless you have a god hand, the hand traps themselves will probably stop you from making a board, and your opponent's just gonna kill you on his turn anyway. So it's literally just a trade-off. It's just like, oh, I'm just gonna end your turn, and then I'm gonna OTK you unless you have a hand trap of your own, and that's not really all that healthy. You know, just disrupting plays from hand, you know, by itself without any sort of resistance, because unless you have a set solid strike already, which is still bad because if you go first, it's not live. It's just too terrible. I just can't understand why people do not see, hey, if my opponent somehow manages to make like even a somewhat resistant board with hand traps in their hand combined with that resistant board because you dropped hand traps on them, and let's say they do make just a sleeper with the last resort and that's it. That's literally it. No decode, no nothing. Combine that with an Ash Blossom and a Ghost Ogre in their hand, and you're still not winning the game. And you can blame it on sleeper and just these broken cards. You can blame it on them all you want, but at the end of the day, there can be times where you look at your hand and you're like, and you can see that you just might actually be able to break the board, but you need no surprises. You know, being able to break these boards with the cards in your hand that you have available, you could potentially pull off. But then if your opponent has 1 to 2 hand traps in their hand with their established board, that makes all of your potential ability to break the board just fly out the window. That is what I have against hand traps. It's not the fact, I mean, I understand that turn 1 boards are pretty powerful, but again, that just goes back to deck building, because people here are still convinced that hand traps are the answer when I clearly got second place with board breakers. I'd rather, yeah, again, on the problem I had with hand traps was drawing them a turn late after they went off, and still having unknown variables I have to worry about because my opponent still has multiple cards in hand, and any of them could be more cards that allow them to have follow-up plays, and my hand trap got wasted. I've said this in multiple times in the hand trap versus kaiju video, so I don't really need to go much further into that. But so guys, that is it for this one. What do you think of ABCs moving forward into the future meta? See, it's amazing that people think ABCs is not a good deck or that it's not doing anything, but yet those are the same people that will actually have Buster in their side deck with cherries, you know, for that reason. You know, if the deck isn't a threat, then why have Buster in the side deck with cherries? You know, it makes no sense unless you do realize that Deco Talker plus Dragon Buster is a problem. And that is a very hard board to break unless you're having kaijus in the main deck. But that is it, guys. That is just my little talk for ABCs and what they can do and why. I think any deck, again, any deck you should be able to build to go second. This link spam deck that I had, actually, where's that at? Is this it? No. I just made a link spam deck completely TCG legal. Well, it's not 100% complete TCG legal because we don't have Link Karibo is not legal for us yet, so who knows when that's gonna come to pass. Probably the start of the year, which it actually is. It's January 1st. I hope everybody had a nice New Year's and all that good stuff. So, you know, this link spam deck, I made it to go second, just resolving Yazi. The whole purpose is just pump out Yazi to bring out the Mare, summon a bunch of tokens, make your firewall, and pop off with everything else. It's just like, once you make your Yazi and resolve it, you pretty much win. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comment section below what deck or what you want me to discuss next, because I have a couple of other ideas, but I want to hear from the audience on what you think is relevant that I should talk about that maybe I haven't talked about, or something interesting along those lines. So thank you guys for watching very much, and this is J Money, and I'm signing out.